Hello and good day. This is Corey from the BachScholar YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me today. This is an interesting video that I have for you in that I am practicing a piece that I've never played before, never taught before, and it's something that I just sort of stumbled across because I had this book, this Liszt book that I acquired many years ago and never really played much out of it. And the last video I made for you was a video explaining why I didn't think it was a good idea to write in fingerings in pieces. So I thought it would be interesting to go through my process here in learning a piece of music, a difficult piece of music, and not writing in fingerings. And I'm just going to read through some sections of this, show you how I go about learning things from the very early stage. I've only been working on this for like 1 or 2 days now. It's very, very early, very young. I'm just putting the hands together very slowly in this very difficult work by Liszt. And I think it will be a good learning experience for some of you out there who are baffled or puzzled on how do you learn things, what are the basic learnings, the very beginning stages of learning a piece without writing and fingerings, and other factors like that I'll discuss. Anyway, this is a book I acquired many years ago. Liszt piano works, various cyclical works 1. It's a Barenreiter book. It's a pretty good edition. And I've never played any of these before. Well, actually, no, I'll take that back. I've played a couple of the consolations. The consolations are in here. But another work in here that I didn't really know much about or hadn't really heard or taught much was the poetic and religious harmonies that Liszt composed. I think it was around 1847 he composed these. I think they were published in 1853, and one of them was based on a much earlier work, Poetic and Religious Harmonies, based on poems by Alphonse de Lamartine, the French poet. As you might know, Liszt was a devout Catholic pretty much all through his life, and he was always drawn towards religious themes, particularly of the Catholic faith. And these are some really just stunningly beautiful works and very picturesque works. They're not your typical flashy virtuoso Liszt works, although there are many. There's a lot of virtuosity in here, but it's a different kind of virtuosity. It's not like transcendental etudes or things of that nature, but they're very introspective works, and the virtuosity serves a purpose. I have a couple links below this video. Actually, I have a link to the translations of the poems and a little discussion. It's on a blog. Actually, it was the first blog that came up. I think it's pretty good. You can read that at your leisure about these pieces. I also have a link to an Italian pianist's very illuminating lecture and talk on these pieces. Actually, unfortunately, it's just about the first 5. There are a total of 10 pieces in this Poetic and Religious Harmonies set. A complete performance is about an hour and a half, about a good 90 minutes to perform all of these if you were to perform them all in one sitting. And the piece that I'm looking at right now, the piece that I've been looking at for the past day or so, it's very early, it's very young, is the third one. It's called the Blessing of God in Solitude. That is the English translation. I won't say it in French. I don't want to embarrass myself with my terrible French, so I'll just say it in English. The Blessing of God in Solitude. And you can go down, and I'm not going to talk about the poem here, but basically it's a religious poem about being with God in solitude, of course. So you can read the poem about that. It's a stunningly beautiful work and not easy to play. It's about 17 to 18 minutes, maybe even 19 minutes, depending on your tempo or tempi that you choose. And so it's a large scale work, actually, just this one piece. This is number 3. And this is probably the biggest and most popular piece in this set here. Before this, number 2 is a very beautiful Ave Maria. It's not the famous Ave Maria like the transcription of the Schubert, of course, but this is Liszt's own Ave Maria, which is actually not virtuosic at all. It's actually pretty easy technically to play. And then after this technically sort of easy Ave Maria, you come to this just mountain of difficulties that he throws into this, the blessing of God in solitude. And as I told you before, I've been just working on this for just like 1 day or 2 days. Anyway, it has a very beautiful melody down in this register of the piano that Liszt loved to use a lot in his works. I'm just going to play, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the bass clef. It's basically a bass note with the melody notes up here. I'm going to play it with both hands. I'm going to leave out the right hand just so we can hear the melody. So we have a little intro. That's the whole melody. It's like about 20 measures long. And then it goes on. So that's sort of the first almost 2 pages of it. And I was playing it, it goes faster than that. It goes faster. I'm playing it probably close to half speed. It's in cut time. Of course, you can go to the link below this video where you can get a free sheet music for this that I've selected on IMSLP. You can follow along with the music. So what I like to do in a piece like this, when we're first learning it, okay, you haven't worked out fingerings, you haven't done anything yet, you really need to know the melody. You need to hear the melody. You need to let the melody sink in. You don't need to get all involved with the right hand, with the intricate the very difficult notes in the right hand here, which I'll get to in a few minutes. But you really want to just have that melody sink in. So what I would suggest is, in a piece like this or similar pieces where you have a melody somewhere, is just leave one hand out and play just the left hand with both hands, like I was doing. And I was actually breaking, you heard, like, I didn't play notes exactly together, but I played. And that's so, because when you do play the left hand, you're going to break, he has a lot of these big stretches where you're going to break notes like that. And so if you're playing the bass clef with two hands, you want to include those breaks in there. So now I'm going to take my metronome and I'm going to put it on, a relatively slow speed here. You might have a hard time hearing this metronome, but the louder metronome I have on my phone, and I'm using my phone to record this video, so I'm going to put this on 48, and I'm going to try again what I just did, and we're going to have 48 beats per half note, so this will be in a slow cut time now. Actually, no, I just noticed something. Actually, I played like half of it cut time and half not in cut time. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to keep that for the half note. 1, 2, 1, 2. There's another rest. 2, 1. Then this, you have a retard. Let's start right here, back with the metronome, and 1, 2. Stop there. That's the whole melody, which is then developed further in various forms. So what I would suggest to do when you learn a piece of music like this, like I said, you need to break it down into its components. Don't just dive right in and try to do everything at once. So the important thing is the melody. The melody is primary. That's the primary thing you want. By the way, if you're interested in what the real tempo of this is, it's around the 50, most performers tend to play it around in the 60s to maybe 72 or so per half note. I think 72 is a little too fast, but one of my favorite pianists, Claudio Arrau plays it actually slower than most people. He plays it at about 54 per half note. So it's just a little faster than what we were doing here, of course, with both hands and everything. So when I run through it here with both hands, I'm going to go roughly about half speed. I'm going to play. Now I'm going to put it on. Well, actually, I'm not going to first, before I go through it on the metronome, I'm just going to go through the right hand and show you what happens in the right hand here. So what happens is Liszt had, if you were to break it up into two hands, and that's another thing that would be good to do, especially in this piece and other pieces that are complex like this, is break up like the treble clef into two hands so you can hear it better. So if I break up so the right hand is basically doing those patterns. The top voice is doing a very slow kind of trill, just sort of going back and forth. And if you look at the first page, it's basically all it's doing for more than half the page is going back and forth between C sharp and D sharp. Of course, up the tempo, it would be more like that. But remember, we're doing it about half speed because we're just learning it. And then the bottom voice, the alto, we have the soprano up here, the alto. So the alto is going up a little arpeggio, a little broken chord up and down, and the soprano is doing repeated notes. Now you have to do this with one hand. Okay, so with both hands. Beautiful counterpoint between those voices. The way that you have the top voice just doing a little tiny little slow trill on the top, alternating between two notes, and you have an arpeggio going up and down in the alto. You have to do this all with one hand. So now, I'm going to play the right hand of this first page, no pedal. I'm not going to use any pedal. And I'm just going to play it really slow, just with the right hand. There's little breaks. There will be little breaks because it's not perfect, like if you have both hands together. Let's continue. It indicates here to take some of those with the other hand, but I'm playing it all with the right hand. I think, at least now, I prefer it that way. Let me see what I was doing here. Yeah, around roughly about half speed. I was about at 54 per quarter note. And up to speed, at least the speed Claudio Rao plays it at is 54 per half note, roughly, in this first section. Oh, I didn't mention, and you probably, if you have the score, you notice this. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 6 sharps, okay? So we're in the key of F sharp major, 6 sharps. So you have to remember that you have a B natural, but the E is sharped. So this is really hard to read. This is virtually impossible to sight read. This is not sight reading music. Even me, being the good sight reader that I am, no, I could not sight read this. Just if I had to just sit down and play this with never seen it before with both hands, even at half speed, it's hard. It's really hard to sight read this. Okay, so you really have to work out the notes, learn the notes, and get them into your fingers. One thing I noticed is that about the writing and fingerings, you don't really have to, because sometimes there's really only one possibility for you to do it. So even though sometimes with complex music like this, sometimes the fingering is more apparent. I find that with easier music, there are more possibilities with fingerings, and therefore it's a little more confusing on what fingering to use. But when you're dealing with difficult music like this, there's often just sort of one apparent fingering, or they have some fingerings in here in my edition, but I deviate a little bit from those fingerings, but once again I don't write them in. So I've worked on this for about 1 day. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take both hands, dun, 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 dun. I'm going to play it at roughly about 54 per quarter note, about half speed, and I'm going to add the damper pedal, and I'm going to play both hands together with pedal as written, with all the dynamics and everything that I can do. And remember that I'm trying to bring that melody out with the tenor. So very often it's the thumb or maybe the second or third finger of my left hand that's involved with the melody, and all of the other voices are very soft. So even in the learning stage, even in the very early learning stage like I'm doing here, it's very important that you try to follow the dynamics. Don't just mash out the notes in a mechanical fashion, but try to make it as musical as possible, even at half speed. Okay, so enough being said about that. I'm going to do it now at about half speed. So we have... section yet. Then this section here, I'll stop here, is this next section here basically has the melody now in the alto voice. So it's basically the same melody, but it's up an octave, played by mostly the thumb of the right hand with those accompaniments. With those, what we formerly did in the right hand, we're doing now in the left hand. So in a way, it's kind of like an etude, almost like an etude for double notes and voicing a melody. Then it expands for a while, it picks up in speed, it gets very dramatic, and then it comes to a second section here, very beautiful second section. Then that's developed more. This is like, I don't know, 17 pages long or something. It's like really, really long. I also looked at the last section, which is very interesting here. I'm going to take that same speed. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm going to play from measure 308. This is when it goes back to, it's in 3/2 time. It's very impressionistic sounding, almost like Debussy. Very impressionistic for about 2 pages. So I'm going to play this section here at measure 308. I'm going to play around roughly half speed, a little less than half speed actually. So then you have a closing page, very beautiful closing page here. But what I just played, if you look at the score, those really small notes like quasi cadenza. And just because it's really hard to read, I just memorized those so I wouldn't have to look at the page. So that's memorized. Of course, I want to eventually memorize this, but I'm showing you my steps and just what I do to learn a difficult piece of music, very difficult, in only 1 or 2 days. This is the very early steps. So what you need to do when you learn music like this, or even easier music, is you need to go through the steps. Be very careful with your note reading. Remember your sharps, remember your flats. It's very important. You need to hit the right notes. You need to hit the right rhythms. But also, in addition to the notes and rhythms, you need to make sure that the balance is good between hands. So even when I was at half speed here, I still was listening, and I was still very conscious of bringing that melody out in the tenor and not mashing out the notes in the right hand. So I was very sensitive to the sound that I was producing. Of course, it needs to be faster, but once you have that bass level at about maybe half speed or so, and everything is in place, you have the voicing, you have the notes, you have the rhythms, you have your fingerings pretty much worked out, then it's just a matter of sort of gradually getting it faster. And I have found through experience that pieces tend to get faster on their own. You don't have to necessarily even try. Sometimes, like, I'll find maybe a week later, if I work on this a few more times throughout the week, a week or 2 later, I'll find that, wow, this has gotten like a lot faster, just not even trying. So you don't even have to try to get it faster, but if everything is in place, if all the musical elements are in place, it will get faster on its own. So don't be obsessed with speed. Be more obsessed with details in the music. Also notice that I was singing. I was playing a beautiful melody in the beginning. You didn't hear me in the beginning, but I was sort of starting to sing it in my mind. So singing melodies is a good idea too while you're playing it. And this is such a beautiful piece. I'm kind of ashamed that I never really knew it before. I don't even think I heard it. I mean, I had seen the title before, but I'd never really sat down and really listened and studied the piece. But I'm beginning to really love this piece, and I'm going to be working on sections throughout my days in the next week and the coming months as I get time. Maybe hopefully sometime I'll be able to perform it for you, but until then I'm just enjoying studying the work and just reveling in Liszt's pure genius. With this, I think this is one of the greatest pieces that he ever wrote, actually. And so check out those links below this video. And I hope this little practice session helped you with your own practice, because I really want to help you out with your own practice. And if you want to learn from me more, you can sign up for the Well-Rounded Pianist. Just go over to wellroundedpianist.com and sign up. And you also have the option of getting a practice plan from me if you email me about that. And both my wife and I are also available for online piano lessons via Skype or Zoom. So thank you for watching this video, and until we meet again.